Okay, this is a lecture about iron and heart disease. Probably the best book discussing iron and heart disease. This one called Iron in Your Heart by Randall Lawfer. He's a biochemist specializing in iron biochemistry from Harvard. And there's other good books on iron. I think this book here called The Iron, the Most Toxic Metal by Jim Moon is a very good book. And also this book here by E.D. Weinberg on the hidden dangers of iron. You'd be amazed how much is written and studied about iron and the toxic effects it has on our health. And there's a whole bunch of papers and videos and stuff. There's a lot of stuff you can learn about iron. But if you had to start, I would say start with Laufer's book if you want to learn more about it. But the key point is really this. The vast majority of Americans, anybody who's eaten a westernized diet, they're iron overloaded. The men, by the time they're in middle age, women start becoming progressively more iron overloaded in postmenopausal phase of their life. Menstruation protects them before that. And so by avoiding meat and iron fortified foods and a few other things, you can lower your iron levels gradually. If you're sick, like you've acutely got cancer or some other major problem, you might want to donate blood to get those iron levels down faster because nothing good comes from it. And people are dramatically iron overloaded, and it progressively damages the brain, the liver, the pancreas, and other areas. So anyways, okay, question number one. Why do premenopausal women have fewer heart attacks? And so, the joke, they have sex more often. Okay, it's not the main reason, probably true, but they're younger. Younger people in general have fewer problems, but that doesn't explain it either because same-age men have a lot more health problems. Okay, it's not the cholesterol because the same-age men and women don't differ that much in their total cholesterol. It's not the estrogen. Estrogen is not that cardioprotective. There's significant issues and problems with it. Okay, it's the menstruation. And they know that's true also because if a whole bunch of women had hysterectomy with or without the ovaries been taken out, an oophorectomy, it didn't make a difference, significant difference in their heart disease. Women who take birth control pills for a long time, many years, they're not menstruating as much, or other forms of birth control that don't get them to menstruate, they'll have more heart disease. Hysterectomy is a big deal. Women who have a hysterectomy at a young age, let's say in their late 20s, early 30s, they've got a lot of health problems. They've got a markedly increased risk of myocardial infarction, congestive heart failure, hypertension, stroke, because a lot of times they don't realize that they've lost that protective effect of menstruation. They weren't aware of it. So anyways, why is menstruation so protective? Because it's like donating blood every month, a therapeutic phlebotomy. It lowers the hematocrit, and red blood cells are the main contribution to the blood cells in the blood. Okay, like 99% of blood cells are red blood cells. So the blood becomes a lot less thick. That means lowered in blood viscosity. That means you're pumping solution through your vessels more like water than like a milkshake. So blood pressure can be decreased, and that has a protective effect on your arteries. Less hypertension leads to less atherosclerosis. So the viscosity of the blood is a major issue, but there's more to it than that. They're also lowering the body's total iron storage, and that means less free iron. That means less iron available to undergo redox cycling and generate reactive oxygens like hydroxyl radical, causing damage to the tissues. So it's protective in a big way. In the United States, this is 1986 data. The average man lived till 71 years of age. The average woman about to 78 years of age, a little more than that actually. And so she's got at least a little bit over 7 years of life compared to the average man. And so what's the main reason that men die younger? It's mostly because of heart disease. What's the main thing that protects a woman? Menstruation. Okay, having a baby will also lower, they bleed a little bit at delivery, so that'll also lower her total body iron levels. All right, meat is like a quadruple whammy for causing heart disease. First of all, the meat has a lot of high saturated fat. That's going to cause rouleau formation, elevate LDL cholesterol, make the red blood cells stick together, lead to hypertension, thick blood, atherosclerosis. It's also associated with accumulation in the skeletal muscles, leading to insulin resistance and diabetes, which causes more atherosclerosis and heart disease problems down the line. The high sat fat causes high cholesterol, but it's more than that. The high animal protein itself causes high cholesterol. It ramps up the body for growth, and that generates elevated blood cholesterol. So that's another reason why meat's bad for heart disease. In addition, there's at least elevated TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, and that's a problem with heart disease. But For our purposes in this lecture, the main thing we care about here is high heme iron. Heme iron is much more absorbed, about 4 times as much as plant iron, and it leads to the person, men becoming progressively iron overloaded in middle age and women becoming iron overloaded postmenopausal. That causes increased oxidative stress, which damages cardiac tissue. Iron infiltration in the heart is disruptive to the cardiac conduction system and can lead to arrhythmias. It leads to weakening of the heart muscle with cardiomyopathies. Eventually, it can lead to congestive heart failure. If you look at a graph of cholesterol levels versus heart disease, there's a good correlation, but it can't fully explain the risk of cardiac disease. When you simultaneously combine that with a graph of effects due to iron, then you get a more linear one-to-one correlation. You're more able to predict risk of heart disease. There's a very famous researcher, J.L. Sullivan, of iron, and he claims that the total body stored iron is a better predictor of heart disease than is blood cholesterol. So they're both helpful predictors of cardiac risk. After a minor ischemic episode in the heart, let's say an angina episode, you get subsequent restoration of perfusion. You get re-entry of oxygen into the heart muscle. Then you can have more oxidative stress leading to generation of reactive oxygens from the iron that's present. That's a long story. We don't need to get into that. That also relates to stroke recovery. But the bottom line is excess iron hanging around causes problems through oxidative stress and all these other features. So that was the main point. I think that's about the last slide here. And again, what's it going to come down to? Do you want to donate blood or not? Okay, so that's it for this one.